Hello, and welcome to episode 96 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm James.
And this week, a little grab baggy, but I got fired up listening to another podcast. And I was like, here's a topic that I think we should talk about. I don't know how long it's going to be, but the now perhaps great debate of historic versus pioneer.
Yeah. I have some thoughts. I didn't listen to that podcast, but we can talk about it for sure.
Yeah. So if you want to get at us about your thoughts on historic and pioneer, you can tweet at us at CasualTryPod.
Yeah, if you want to share your Kaladesh drafts, you can hit us up on Facebook, CasualTryHardMTG. You can also drop us an email, show@CasualTryHardMTG.com. If you want to ask us any questions or send us show ideas or what have you. Don't forget, if you're looking to pick up any singles, like from Commander Legends, make sure you use our TCG player affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. Anything you purchase after following that link will help support the show. We'll get a small sliver of it to help keep the show rolling. If you want to support us a little bit more directly, you can do so at patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg. Patrons get early access to our show notes, so you know what's coming up in the episode when it's released. Patrons also get access to our pre-show, which is basically just us catching up because we don't get to see each other anymore. Making sure our sound's working, our internet's working. Our internet was not working this time, so there's some dead air in there, but patrons get access to that raw footage. We also have a YouTube channel, Casual Tryhard MTG on YouTube, and we have a Discord channel. There should be a link in the description. There's a pinned post on Twitter with a link. There's a post on Facebook with a link. If you can't find the link anywhere, hit us up any of the above ways, and we'll send you a link. Speaking of Discord, we had some people that wanted to associate our voices with our Discord handles. I think for both of us, our Discord handle is the same as our username for Arena, right?
Yep. I am Dr. Gamer PhD, pretty much on all things.
Yep. And I am Greasy Jockey, also on all things.
So my wife is Dr. Gamer MD on the things I have set up for her. So when we play Harry Potter, we look like a little power couple.
Well, you are a little power couple.
A little power couple. So they were asking like what I do. So if you're new, the Dr. Gamer PhD thing is because I am a doctor. I teach organic chemistry at a mid-sized university in Myrtle Beach. And I guess I've been there for like 8 years and been playing Magic. Well, I started in like high school, then took a long hiatus through college and grad school, and then started up again in, 2014, 15, somewhere in there.
15, I think. I think you came back to the game a little bit after I did.
Yeah, so you came back in like Theros.
Yeah, I came back when Theros released.
So I came back
Which would have been like the end of 13, I think.
Yeah, and I came back at the beginning of Cons Block. I do believe that was my first set.
Okay. Yeah, so it would have been just like a year after that.
Yeah.
And I'm James. I am a shop foreman at a Volkswagen dealership here in Myrtle Beach. Fix cars, train employees, deal with problem cars. I don't know, kind of a similar mindset when you're doing, technical repair-y stuff as like playing Magic. It's all about solving problems, using the tools at your disposal to get yourself out of a situation. Probably part of the reason why I kind of gravitate towards like mid-rangey value decks, because they're a little bit more toolboxy than like a combo deck or an aggro deck or a control deck. I like having all of the tools laid out for me and find my way out of, like I said, out of problems. That's basically what I do for work, is troubleshoot and fix problems. But similar story to Brian. I used to play when I was a kid. I played from like the very tail end of Unlimited through Visions, I think. And then off and on here or there, I'd still pick up a booster pack at the store when I saw one, but didn't really get back into the game until Theros. One of my friends we were at Walmart looking for bolts or something for a car we were working on at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Walmart was the only place open that might have the bolt we were looking for. So we ran into Walmart and had seen some packs of Magic cards at checkout, and my friend said to me, "Oh, I used to have some of those when I was a kid. I liked the pictures on them, but nobody I knew actually played, so nobody could teach me how to play the game." And I said, "Well, I used to play the game a lot. Like I used to go to tournaments when I was a kid. I remember, spending Saturdays in the food court at the mall playing Magic, or wherever would have us." And I guess that was it. We bought some starter decks and taught him how to play. And as soon as I found our local game store, I got hooked again, and I've been playing pretty much nonstop since then.
Yep. Kind of same thing for me. I played through Urza's block and then went away and then got the iPad Duels of the Planeswalker.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is fun. And so I played that during my honeymoon in our downtime. And I was like, I should go play for real. And then I went to the store and then started playing.
Yeah, I've had some back issues from work and have been out of work a couple times for, back surgeries. And I remember one of the times I was out, I actually made a Magic Online account and played a whole bunch of Pauper, but I don't remember when that was.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm just remembering that now.
There you go. But we've been around for a bit and kind of have lives outside of it, but we do our best to keep informed with things, and we just have institutional knowledge of the game that we can hopefully share and impart. And we have those hot takes, which 2020 is all about, hot takes these days.
Oh, yeah.
I need to bring my Twitter hot takes more.
As to more of the show stuff, one of the reasons we started doing this show was because we had kind of graduated to being part of the older crowd at our game store. A lot of the people that were around when we got back into Magic had kind of disappeared, and there was a younger crowd, less experienced crowd hanging out. And we'd always get asked a bunch of questions. And a lot of times it was stuff that we had just talked about in our group chat. So we figured, why not talk about this stuff, formally and record it. And that way when people had questions, we could point them somewhere. And it kind of, over the last couple of years, we've been doing this for almost 2 years now.
Almost 2 years, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of evolved into what we have now. So by all means, if you guys have any questions you want to hear about, that's why we started the show. So ask away.
All right, so our first topic is something that came to me when I was listening to Arena Deck List, and they're of the mindset that you don't need to have Historic and Pioneer both exist, and that we gave Pioneer a good run, but no one cares about Pioneer, and Historic's super interesting. So why don't we just not work towards putting Historic on Arena, putting Pioneer on Arena, and just make Historic a paper format that eats Pioneer. Yeah.
Wow, that is... So I did not listen to this podcast, and you kind of pitched this idea to me, and that is not at all the take that I thought they were going to have.
They are just Pioneer's dumb, no one cares. It's maybe not all Wizards' fault because the pandemic happened, and so no one's played Pioneer, and we don't need both, so let's just get rid of them. And I was in my car going no, that's an awful idea. So I am of the mindset that we need Pioneer.
Yeah, I agree. I think Pioneer is great, and I would argue that it's more interesting than Historic is. Historic is the only thing that makes Historic different than Pioneer is it doesn't go back as far currently, and there's random smatterings of cards thrown in.
Again, I think, as we said, the design principle has been they just take a box with every card in Magic's history. They go to the top of the WotC building and they dump it out. And
Yeah,
any card that lands face up goes into historic that month.
I think so. Yeah.
And it's like, it makes no sense. So let's start with why historic needs to exist. Because I'm not saying that we don't need historic,
Right.
but I think we need both. Or
Yeah.
if we had to, if one had to die, I feel like it should be historic.
Well, all right. So I wrote down some thoughts. Like I said, I didn't know what they had said. And again, you kind of caught me off guard because that's not the take I expected to hear. But for historic, there absolutely needs to be some sort of non-rotating format on Arena because when cards rotate out of standard, players need some place to play them, especially since there's no like dusting system. Like those cards would just basically not exist, even though they're still in your collection after they rotate out of standard. So there has to be some place for those cards to go, some place to play them. Even if it's only a small percentage of those cards that are still seeing play, it gives players the perception that your cards are still something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I basically only play recently historic best of one, just neoforming people.
Yeah.
Right. So like I'm all there for historic being a thing. And yeah, like because of the economy they've set up, they can't just have standard.
Right.
Because people wouldn't keep putting money in or would maybe put money in at a lower rate if they felt like this investment 100% spoils in 2 years.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put any money in because I know in 2 years or for a core set in a year, I'm not going to be able to use these cards anymore.
Yeah. The other thing is that the other reason why I think historic, so the last thing was just kind of something like historic has to exist. This one is historic specifically has to exist because like historic cards would be really hard to curate that format in paper because of what makes the format. Just being anything that's on Arena means that random cards that would be hard to define if you weren't an Arena player are going to be legal in the format. Like if you tried to make historic a paper format, it would be hard to say, okay, it's all of standard from the last 3 years plus Jumpstart. And then on top of that, there's also like 40 extra cards and some welcome deck stuff that's legal.
And there's also Kaladesh Remastered and Amonkhet Remastered randomly.
Right.
Right. So it's not all your Amonkhet stuff, and it's not all your Kaladesh stuff.
Oh, that's true. That's another point that I hadn't thought of.
It's only the specific cards that they picked. So it's like half of the sets that you have.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and then like the argument against that would be that things like Jumpstart don't have to exist on Arena. I think it's good for things like Jumpstart to exist, though. I've actually really been enjoying having a set release and then a month or two later something else to draft on Arena. You know, we had a set release and then Amonkhet Remastered. Or we had a set release and then Jumpstart. And then a set release and then Amonkhet Remastered. And then a set release and now Kaladesh Remastered. I think that's a good timeline for Arena releases. I mean, I wouldn't want to keep up with that in paper, but I think that that's a good timeline for Arena because like 2 months is probably about as long as you can keep somebody's interest in a set.
I was going to say that I'm sure that they see this big uptick in people playing the new set.
Yeah.
And then it probably falls off like a month or so, or 6 weeks later. Yeah. So then they're like, okay, let's put a new product on here to do that. Because I wouldn't be surprised if in December we get Arena Cube again.
Could be, yeah.
Where they're just like, oh, well, people don't care about Kaladesh as much anymore.
Right.
So let's do, or like, how long is Kaladesh going to be on for? Cause,
I have no idea.
Because I feel like Amonkhet Remastered was like there for like 3 weeks or a month and then like went away.
It was about a month.
Right, like just long enough
Yeah.
And then it went away. And you're just like, okay. So then I'm sure they feel like they have to put the next thing up to kind of like keep the cash flowing and people engaged.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same problem like we were talking about with like the metagame churn, where people play so much Arena that they get burnt out. You know what I mean? And I think when you're trying to, from a business standpoint, when you're trying to sell packs, like if you were at your LGS, you might get a draft a week in. You're really not going to get more than that, even if you're like a diehard player. Whereas on Arena, the night Kaladesh Remastered came out, I ran through 4 drafts.
Yeah,
like that's never going to happen in paper.
I sat down yesterday, and from like 6 to 10, I think I did 3 drafts.
Yeah,
I won 15 games.
Yeah,
and, I mean, even so, when I was dating, but the wife lived 10 hours away, I was at my peak. I was doing 4 drafts a weekend.
Yeah,
I was doing the 7, the midnight, the 7, and the midnight. The body can't take that too long, and my the amount of Battle for Zendikar cards and cons cards that I have is like infinite because I just drafted those sets constantly. But right. Yeah, like doing 4 drafts in a weekend required you to, like, it was a 7-hour plus commitment from like 7 p.m. to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
2 days a week.
Yeah.
Right. I could no longer do that.
Yeah. Whereas on Arena, I can sit down and do that in 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. Just like, or like you get like you go like 3-3 and it happens pretty quick. You might be in the draft queue again.
Right.
In under an hour.
Oh, yeah. Very easily.
So.
But because of that, like, I kind of like these extra releases that we're getting for Arena. And I kind of welcome things like Jumpstart or the remastered sets, or I mean I would not be surprised at all to see another Jumpstart, even if it was only on Arena or something along those lines. Some other project that just puts a bunch of cards on Arena that is a limited release or whatever.
I mean, they could, like, if they wanted to like break Arena, they could do like Pioneer only mystery boosters.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Where they just make some giant, like, it couldn't be the 2,000 cards that mystery boosters were, just because there's not, but you could put, 1,000 card set.
Oh, yeah.
And just have it just be Pioneer cards.
Yeah, just do, like, all of the RTR block.
Oh, yeah, you could just do every Ravnica set.
Yeah.
Just, here you go. Here's every Ravnica set.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, just take out the really garbage commons. Like, ooh, a 3-mana 3/3? No, thank you. No text? Go away. Which, like, in the Kaladesh set, they have that, like, 5-mana 5/4 no text.
Yeah, why is that there?
I'm like, who is this for? At no point would this card ever go in your deck. There is not a point that you're like, you know what, I want that.
Also, while we're talking about Kaladesh Remastered, we kind of touched on earlier about how aggressive this format is, and you mentioned that you do remember Kaladesh being somewhat aggressive because of the thriving creatures.
Yes.
Are all of the thriving creatures in Kaladesh Remastered?
I think only the Rhino.
Well, I've seen the Rhino and I've seen the Turtle.
Oh, and the Turtle. Yeah.
Those are the only 2 I've seen, though.
Yeah, the red one was the Gremlin that was like a 2/1.
Yeah.
That grew.
And the black one was the rat.
Yeah, and I forget what the white one was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But the only good one is like the Rhino. But yeah, they're missing, like, same with like the creatures that, I don't know if all the creatures that when they attack can pay 2 energy to make a servo. I know there's the red, the blue, the white
one's on there,
and I don't know if the green one's on there.
The black one is.
The black one is. Black one, I have 2 in my current deck.
Yeah.
And the red one's good.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing the green one.
Yeah, I'm assuming there was one. It would be weird that they didn't have, like, finished that cycle. But yeah, like some of the stuff that's like missing is just like, oh.
Yeah.
But like I said before, like you just forget how aggressive vehicles make everything when you play your 4-drop and then next turn you're just like, oh, my thing effectively has haste, attack you with like a 5/5 trampler.
Yep.
That I paid 4 mana for. It's like,
yep.
oh, that's really good. Anyway.
One of the other things, like going back to what we were talking about with Historic, is so we talked about things like Jumpstart or the remastered sets, like adding to the Historic card pool. But I could also, I mean, I don't think Secret Lairs are going anywhere. They seem to be popular enough. And I think I heard somewhere they have like 2 years of them planned out already.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't think they're going anywhere. But I could easily see them doing the same thing for Arena that they're doing for Magic Online also, where you get like a code that lets you redeem them on Arena and get like the cards. So that might be something else to push Secret Lairs, or vice versa to drive people onto Arena, where you buy whatever Secret Lair it is, and you get codes for those 5 powerful cards on Arena. It's another way to increase the card pool, drive players, like cross-platform players, people playing in paper or, Arena. And I think those kind of things are neat. And something like Historic would give you a place to play all that stuff.
Yeah, to just kind of stuff all that random stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, the idea of Historic becoming a paper format, like, part of the reason that, Modern and Legacy, more so Legacy, right, have kind of withered on the vine is it's just so prohibitively expensive to get in.
Right.
And how much is a Muxus right now?
Oh, I don't know, a bunch.
Like $70. An Allosaurus Rider is $100.
Yeah.
Right. There's such a kind of a crunch on these like Jumpstart cards, especially the new ones.
Muxus is 30.
Okay. But like especially the newly designed cards, like you'd be pricing people out of your format before it even started.
Yeah. Allosaurus Shepherd is 90.
Yeah.
And Tiny Bones is 40.
And now imagine if like they were playable in a non-legacy,
right?
Like 1v1 format, because I know they're playable in Commander, but just like a non-legacy 1v1, like they would skyrocket. Like as soon as you announce that, like goblins would cost like Muxus would be $120 a piece. They'd be like Jason White Sculptor bucks. Yep. Like the day that was announced.
Yeah.
So I think it's difficult to like that format. You'd have to really work on like printing your way out,
right,
of the box you're in. Yeah. If you did that, and I don't think that I'm sure they want to print more Jumpstart. I just don't think they have the capacity to.
I think at this point it doesn't make financial sense for them to print any more Jumpstart. Kind of like what happened with the mystery boosters. Like they have their product line set so far in advance that like their product line as it stood at the beginning of COVID is going to stretch realistically until like COVID is over, assuming COVID ends sometime in 21. They're not going to interrupt their product line because they couldn't get enough of a product out. Like that's not how their cycle works.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like even if they wanted to, they just don't have the ability to. Like their printers are tied up. So even if they were like, wow, we can make more money off of Jumpstart, they can't find a place to print them. Yeah. And like as of right now, products like Mystery Booster and Jumpstart, well, they're like play with your friends format, like sets, right? Like you don't buy Jumpstart to just crack a bunch of packs. I mean, you can,
right?
But like the idea is that you cracked your packs with your friend and played,
right?
Not just like, and so same with like Mystery Booster, you could just crack a bunch of Mystery Boosters, but like it was made to draft. I mean, Commander Legends has the same kind of problem, right? Like it's a set made to draft with, and it's not the easiest to get people together right now,
right?
So I agree that historic should exist, but I don't think that it needs to like exist as a paper thing. Because, like you said, just being like, yeah, it's these full sets, these partial sets, this random supplemental product, but not this one.
Right.
And
not Mystery Booster, just Jumpstart.
Yeah, not Commander Legends.
Yeah.
Just, and then you're like, oh yeah, and here are these 40 cards that we randomly picked.
More coming, right? There's supposed to be another Commander Anthology coming soon, or
Historic Anthology.
Historic Anthology coming soon, I think.
Yeah, so it would just be hard to like curate as like you said, like you could not take a new player and explain to them what they could play in their deck without like a Chains of Mephistopheles type flowchart.
Right.
To show them what they should do.
Well, I mean, there was a thing on our Discord channel last week or the week before where somebody was playing one of the random intro deck cards that is not standard legal or would not be standard legal, but is on Arena because it's in the welcome deck.
Yeah.
So you also have stuff like that where if the welcome deck's changed, that card was once in a welcome deck, everybody has it. It's historic legal, might not be standard legal if the welcome decks change, but if you were trying to play in paper, you might randomly, have somebody playing a Grave Dancer against you.
I mean, some of the cards are arena only.
Yeah.
Like they just don't exist in paper.
They just don't have a paper card?
Yeah, the bad Johnny Spell Pridemate.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in paper.
Oh.
Same like there was I think there was like a mono white card that was like white for like a 2/2 flyer. I don't know if that existed in paper.
Huh.
But yeah, some of those cards just don't exist in paper.
Weird.
They're just like arena only cards. Yeah, so it'd be super hard to like make that all work. I mean, they could print the arena only cards into paper, but right. So now Pioneer is the format that I think it's a year old. Like this month.
Is it only a year old?
Yeah, it started last year.
Man, this year is so long.
Right, because February was when
the Dumpster Fire open.
Yeah, but that's when Dumpster Fire open with Inverter. Yeah. And then right after that was the like Sultai, or was that weekend? We were driving back and it was like Sultai versus.
It was that weekend.
Yeah, it was. Oh gosh, the Swedish guy and Canister, Joe Larson.
Yeah,
maybe he wasn't Swedish, but one of those places that's cold all the time.
Scandinavian of some sort.
Yes, Joe Larson and. Canister Peter Grogolski played the final Sultai Delirium against Inverter. That was February.
Man.
So the format's like a year old. And, the stance of Arena deck list, and I think a lot of people is, well, no one cares about Pioneer. So, they gave it a good run, but why bother? And it's like, well, if Pioneer was on Arena,
right,
Pioneer would be like taking all of the oxygen away from Historic, I think.
Probably.
Because I think Wizards would be pushing their Arena tournaments would be standard in Pioneer.
Yeah.
Not standard in Historic.
Right.
And because they want to get people hyped for, I assume, the soon-to-be coming Pioneer Masters in paper at some point.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that just feels like a thing that they are going to do.
Yeah, Pioneer Remastered absolutely could exist.
Yeah. Or just like, like the old Modern Masters sets.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like, here are the cards that are good in Pioneer.
Right.
Here's a reprint of all the Shocklands. Here's these, like, mythics that no one has. Ta-da!
Yep.
Right? And, like, the fact that we had 4 months where Pioneer was, like, the thing. Right? to the point that, again, going back to Arena Decklist, they started another Twitter account, Pioneer Decklist.
Right.
And then banned Christos. Or blocked Christos. But like, it was all the thing, and then COVID happened, and now everyone's like, well, no one cares about Pioneer.
Right.
Because the only place to play it is Magic Online.
Yeah, and there's no focus on Magic Online. Like,
None.
all of the focus from every tournament organizer is on Arena. It's so much easier to look at when you're streaming it, which is the only way to do coverage right now. And there's so many people playing it. There's no reason to do anything on Magic Online.
Other than the Moxus last weekend.
Right.
Which I didn't watch.
I didn't either.
But I did see some crazy deck lists. But yeah, there's, like, to say that Pioneer is, like, was dead on arrival is forgetting how excited everyone was. And all this brewing space and all this focus it had on it.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, well, we just can't do anything, so now no one cares. So, like, I think if you were to give Pioneer a year of tournaments and people being able to play, I think you could reevaluate at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's another point that we hadn't talked about either, is it was like right after our Dumpster Fire Open was the Pioneer Pro Tour, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the, like...
And then immediately after that, there's no more paper events.
Yeah.
So Pioneer never even had a chance to, grab a large audience or have the center stage because, obviously people watched that Pro Tour, but that was it. That's all we had.
The Pro Tour happened, and then there was not that, like, time to be excited and play the Pro Tour decks.
Right.
And, like, start iterating on the format and, like, having, like, 3 or 4 weeks later, like, the Star City event that was Pioneer, and what's the metagame doing now as it shifted? Yeah. Like, it just ended. Like, we're kind of in this weird stasis of there's some Magic Online Pioneer results that led to decks I bought being banned. All of them. All of the decks I had being banned. Yeah. And the deck I'm working on now might get banned. So it's just great. It's just great. If you want to know what the best deck is, talk to me. And then don't buy those cards.
Yeah.
But, right, we just lost all focus. So, like, to say that we don't need Pioneer on Magic Arena because we have Historic, like, they don't do the same thing.
Yeah, so we gave a whole bunch of reasons for Historic to exist. And we just told you why Pioneer deserves a fair shake, but we haven't said why Pioneer needs to exist yet.
Because Brian has, like, 8 decks he can't play?
That's the only reason for Pioneer to exist, because Brian has decks he can't play?
I'm very selfish, yes. It's all about me.
So I actually did a little bit of research here.
Hey, now.
I knew why, like, in my head, Pioneer needed to exist, but I went to find some numbers. So there needs to be a format kind of between Standard and Modern. For those that don't know, Modern goes all the way back to 2008, I think.
Yeah, 8th edition.
As far as card pool wise. That's a lot of sets at this point.
Do you remember
a lot of Magic cards?
Do you remember what the, like, original kind of, like, pitch of Modern was?
It was when they changed the card frame.
Well, that's when they started. Is when they changed to the more modern card frame.
Yeah.
Right? But it was, this is a place for you to play all your old Standard decks.
Right.
Right? No, that's no longer what Modern is.
Not even close.
That's like being like, hey, did you love Mardu Vehicles? Well, play that in Legacy.
Yeah, good luck.
It's a place for you to play all your old favorite Standard decks. No, it's not. And so, right, we need a place to, just like Historic is a way for you to, like, transition your digital collection into it having more value, right? We need a place to have people that start playing Magic to transition their collections for it to, like, keep value.
Right.
Not even, like, monetary value, but just, like, they can keep using the game pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
you have all this cardboard. Do something with it.
yeah, minor in boxes. That's what I've done with it. I put it in boxes. But you can, like, there needs to be a format that, like, bridges that, like, standard giant golf to 2008.
Right.
Right? And that Pioneer filled that role. It gave you a place that you could realistically play your old standard, maybe not your old standard decks, but your favorite standard cards.
Yeah. So, like I said, I did a little bit of research. And through, like, the 2000s, like 2000 through 2009, Magic was pretty stable as far as player base goes. There were some ups and some downs, but it looks, from my research, it looks like it fluctuated somewhere around 7 or 8 million players for basically that whole period. Sets like Mirrodin, Lorwyn. I'm trying to think what else is like modern legal that's not in Pioneer.
Kamigawa.
Yeah, Kamigawa.
The first Ravnica. The original Zendikar.
Like the first Ravnica was pretty popular and Zendikar was popular. But yeah, stuff like Kamigawa and Mirrodin to some extent, like in Lorwyn especially, there was kind of a dip in the game at during those sets where like they actually lost players. And then since about 2012, there's been not just steady, in some cases exponential growth in players. So right around 2012, the information that I found said that we had 12 million players. And then in 2013, it was at 16 million players. In 2014, it was 22 million players. And then in 2018, we had 35 million players. So the number of players like kind of went through the roof during that period of time. That means there's a whole bunch of product out there, and there's a whole lot of players that have cards from that period in time that, you know, maybe don't fit into modern, maybe they missed out on some of the early modern stuff, and there's not really a good home for those cards. So that's kind of like the numbers behind why it makes sense for something like Pioneer to exist. When you have this huge group of people that came into the game during this time, there's a huge amount of cards there that nobody's basically doing anything with. It makes sense for something like Pioneer to exist to, you know, give those people some place to use those cards.
Yeah, and like we talked about last week, Modern's a really expensive format to buy into. And giving people a place to use their cards can make it where they don't have to then, like, you know, donate a kidney for the rest of their cards, right?
Yeah.
It gives you a way to hold those players longer.
Yep.
Right? Like, oh, I don't know, Teamer Energy was my favorite deck. Well, you could play a better version of Teamer Energy in Pioneer. It might not be great, but if you really like that deck and that's what you want to do, giving you a way to keep those cards longer.
Yep.
Right? And keeping you going to tournaments and, you know, buying packs.
Yep.
Is what they need to do. So to just like be like, nope, you have standard, and then you have like historic now in paper. Like, I don't think does the same thing.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Because eventually, you know, historic's gonna reach back to where Pioneer is. It's like, okay, well then there's a spot for that. It's Pioneer.
Right.
Right, and I can tell someone, hey, it's all your like RTR cards forward. And it's like, oh, I understand that timeline.
Right.
It's not like it's your RTR cards forward plus Grizzlebrand and Platinum Angel.
Yeah.
Okay. Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
So, right, like I feel like there is a big player base there. That you could
just need some focus.
It needs some focus. And like you said, there's no way to give it focus right now. Right. Only the diehardiest of diehards play Magic Online. Yeah. Right. The people that were playing Magic Online in 2005, and this is like all they know.
Magic Online is arena for paper boomers.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Right? And I think those people, unless there is an event that is specifically Pioneer, they're super enfranchised, and so they're playing Modern.
Right.
Or they're playing Legacy, or they're doing Vintage Cube.
Mm-hmm.
Which there's a ton of Vintage Cubes I need to watch on YouTube. But they're doing Vintage Cube or something, right? They're playing these older formats because they have the cards. It's not like a cost for them.
Right.
Right? And so the people that are newer, right? The people that started at RTR or Theros, I'm sure a lot of them aren't like Magic Online grinders.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just not experiencing Pioneer at all.
Right.
So Pioneer would go to 2014, roughly?
No, RTR was... That's why I picked 2012. I think RTR was the tail end of 2012.
Okay. So...
Well, no, it couldn't have been. Well, yeah, no, yeah, it had to be... It was the winter or the fall set for 2012.
Okay.
Because Theros was the fall set for 2013.
So...
I think. Is that right?
Or we're off a year. It might be 13.
Yeah, I think I'm off a year, yeah.
13 is RTR, 14 is...
Theros.
Because
15 was Weapons.
I guess when I was started, yeah. When I started in the fall, the summer. Pick a season. Mm-hmm. If I say all of them, I'll get it right eventually.
One of them will be right.
In the summer of 15, and that was the tail end of Blue-White. Well, that was of Sphinx's Revelation.
Oh, okay.
And Supreme Verdict was like summer 2015.
Yeah.
And then Con started, and that stuff all rotated out.
Yeah.
So the Shocks left, and then we got to Fetch Lands.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it would have been 13. But there's 16 million players there that presumably have RTR cards.
Right. Or even if you skip RTR and you go from Theros, like all those 22 million players, only have to buy into Shocks to play Pioneer. And
if they were still playing, they might have them from this last return to
right.
Ravnica. So you have this this player base that you need to serve that might not or just might not enjoy the play patterns of Modern, right?
Yeah.
Like they might be someone who's like, I hate Blood Moon. Well, okay, I don't know. They're every 3% of your games in Modern, someone's Blood Mooning you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if you hate 3% of your games, maybe you're like, I don't want to do this ever. The other 97% aren't worth it. Right? So it does give you this player base to work towards. And it's an interesting format that really I don't think has been fully explored.
Yeah, I don't think it has. It never had the opportunity to.
It never had the opportunity to, and the way they were curating the format made it kind of difficult, right? Because whenever you found the best deck, it just got banned.
Right.
And so it was like, oh, that deck's too good, go away. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, because think about Pioneer's life cycle was we played for 2 weeks, they banned some cards. We played for 3 weeks, they banned some more cards. The format wasn't done settling out, even the list of what cards were legal.
Right.
Wasn't settled.
Right.
So, I am all for Pioneer making its way to Arena so that it gets more eyeballs and can pull people in. Because I think if you had, Crokies playing Pioneer as opposed to Historic, I think that, that would make the format way more popular. And his most recent deck that he posted is just a Pioneer deck.
Yeah, what's he playing now?
Blue-Black Rogues.
Oh, okay.
With 4 Glint Sleeve Siphoners.
And Thoughtseize,
Loris.
Yep.
And then the rest of your rogues.
Yep.
But it gets Fatal Push. So it looked pretty solid. But, I mean, that deck's legal in Pioneer. Like, he's playing a Pioneer deck.
Right.
So, I mean, unless there was just, like, a random Phyrexian tower in the mana base.
Well,
But,
there is also a Jumpstart Rogue that I've seen in lists.
the Una's Blackguard?
Yeah, that's the black one that puts counters on.
Yeah. I don't think he had one of those.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's the other, like, random rogue that, like, whenever a creature with +1/+1 counter deals damage, they discard a card.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it comes in.
Don't like rogues enter the battlefield with a counter on them?
Yeah, so it comes in and it's like Metallic Mimic for rogues.
Yeah.
And then when a creature with a +1/+1 counter deals damage to a player, they discard a card.
Oh, okay.
So if you get 3 creatures with a +1/+1 counter go in and deal damage, you just mind twist your opponent.
Whew. That's rough.
Yeah. But yeah, but for the most part, it's, I think his version is a Pioneer deck. And I don't know if it's good enough for Pioneer, but it would be something to have more people working on those decks. And to just have a bigger card pool. Because, I don't know if that format would get quote-unquote solved. As it won't get solved as quickly as Standard.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the Mox lists, like, the format's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
It wasn't clear. There wasn't there was a consensus of what the best deck was.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's partially because there's not eyeballs on it.
Yeah, it's not like there are, it's not like Standard that has 3 million games or whatever happening a day.
Right.
And figuring out the format. It's 300 people played a league on Magic Online. Like, woo, we got 1,500 games in. We did it. And so that's just not the same kind of churn. And it's 1,500 games that no one's seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother part of it is the games may exist, but, if a bear shits in the woods.
And no one smells it. Did it happen?
Yeah. Did it happen? Yeah. Nobody knows.
So, long story short, I think that Pioneer and Historic can both exist on Arena. I think just because you can't give people something and then take it away.
Well, I mean, there's even if they have complete Pioneer on Arena, there's still arguments for Historic existing.
Yeah.
I think that Historic Brawl, Pioneer Brawl probably doesn't need to exist. Just Historic Brawl.
Yeah, Historic Brawl could be fine.
And I like the idea of things like Jumpstart being on Arena. Something that's not a standard legal set that wouldn't go into Pioneer. I think those kinds of things are cool for Arena. There's no reason why we can't do, Jumpstart with new decks. Or, maybe we get Conspiracy Draft or something on Arena, a new Conspiracy set. That's, a set that's made to draft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things are cool, and Historic gives you a place to use those cards afterwards.
Yeah,
where Pioneer doesn't. Yeah.
Right, and if they do another Jumpstart or they do a Mystery Booster or whatever, right, and then those formats become, and Historic and Pioneer become wildly different.
Yeah.
Right, then it won't feel well, I'm playing Pioneer. I'm playing a watered down version of Historic by playing Pioneer.
Right.
Or I'm playing, just wacky Pioneer by playing Historic. It's no, they're two completely and totally different formats. Right?
And another thing is that Oko is legal in 0 formats on Arena right now. I think.
As he should be.
It's still in my collection. If I go search for Oko, even though he's red and can be played in 0 decks, he's still in my collection. Maybe Historic gets to a place where they can unban some of those cards.
Maybe.
Maybe not necessarily Oko, but, if, by adding in these supplementary sets and these historic anthologies or whatever, making the card pool, over time more powerful, maybe things like that can get unleashed.
Yeah. here is your agent of treachery. Have at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree that you could do something like that, but like they just end up being vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
And like you could see that, Pioneer could become the like arena like grinder format,
Mm-hmm.
where that's where the people that are like super competitive go and play because they're prepping for tournaments.
Right.
Or like there's a PTQ in Pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the historic is more like the laid back fun area.
Yeah, I mean, if there's Pioneer on Arena, it takes some of the focus off of Historic also.
Yeah, because when all these tournaments in Historic started, I was like, hey, this is going to like kind of forever change what Historic is.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, like the litmus test of Historic as a fun format was, I don't know, you were 5% to play against Treasure Hunt.
Yes.
Right, 1 in every 20 matches, they were mono islands playing Treasure Hunt.
Yep.
Right? And now you never see that deck.
No.
Because it's not competitive enough.
Right.
And there was a point where it didn't matter if it was competitive.
It was fun.
It was fun, and people did it.
Yep.
And, like, people might still find it fun, but, like, if you're just not doing anything and getting rolled by goblins every single game, right? It doesn't matter how fun you think the deck is.
Yeah.
You're putting it down.
Right.
You're like, so what did you do today? I played for 3 hours. Oh, how much did you win? You rank up? I went 0-75. It's like, I'm sorry. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I died on turn 4. I died on turn 4. I died on turn 4. Oh, God. Right? So, yeah, I think that them having a way to use those cards is good, but making Historic a place that, like, if you're a somewhat competitive player or a more casual player, that, like, Historic is the place that you can go chill and just, like, play your favorite deck.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And, you're not going to be against the person that is, like, trying to figure out the 75th card in their sideboard.
Right.
Right? There's like, okay, I need to get from this deck having a 55% matchup to a 55.2% matchup.
Yeah, somebody that's on their 200th game with that deck.
Yeah. Right? And I think that's also a good place to have for people. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you don't want to scare people off.
Yep.
So, there you go. So I think they can both exist. I think only one needs to exist in paper.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't ever see a reason for Historic to be played in paper.
And to just write off the format of Pioneer without fully taking into account that there's no format in Magic that you could have launched and then basically said, for the next year, you can't play this format.
Right.
That would look great during that year, right? Everyone loves Modern, right? Could you imagine if they did the like Community Cup, which kind of, or the Community Streamer event or whatever, which kind of launched Modern, and then they played for 3 months, and they were like, yo, you're not playing this format in paper for a year.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, we should get rid of Modern. No one cares. We only care about Extended.
Right.
Right? And then it's like, well, 15 years in the future, it's like, oh, Modern's the most popular non-commander format.
Well, I mean, Modern was the most popular format not that long ago, Modern was the most popular format.
Yeah, but to have just, like, thrown it out because, like, oh, it didn't get off to a good start.
Yeah.
Right? Because the world ended.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of things on Arena, you follow the Twitter account. Every so often, especially when there's a new set like Kaladesh, decks start popping up on Twitter, and I try to find the goodies or the ones that are interesting, and apparently I found a banger.
Oh yeah, this thing's great. The Mardu Vehicles list that you posted up, I don't believe I've lost a match with it yet. I've dropped a couple games, but I'm almost positive I haven't lost a match with it yet, and I've played it almost exclusively since you posted it up. It's a little bit different than the traditional Mardu Vehicles list that we played like during Kaladesh Standard. If I remember correctly, the Mardu Vehicles list didn't play Bomat Couriers. Is that correct?
I think some of them did. I think it just depends.
Yeah, I don't
So,
remember Bomat Couriers being in there, but this list does. And Bomat Courier is one of my favorite cards, like ever.
oh man, I can't
Um,
believe I'm doing this.
yeah,
That Mardu Vehicles list
yeah.
was brought to you by at DWC Podcast One.
Oh man, shouting out another show.
Yeah, another show. Boy, this isn't a crowd. This isn't a crowded media space at all.
Hey, I've never heard of them, so
Yeah, yeah. Take that, DWC Podcast.
it is a good deck list, though.
Yeah. So on.
It also plays Gideon Blackblade instead of Gideon Ally Zendikar, which kind of fill similar roles. Ally Zendikar makes your team wide, just makes 2/2s every turn, whereas Gideon Blackblade is kind of just a beater that either makes your attacks a little bit better with it giving indestructible or gains you some life with lifelink. But both of them kind of serve the same function in fueling up your Heart of Kirin. Yeah, I guess you plus Gideon Blackblade, which lets you fuel Heart like every turn, whereas Ally Zendikar didn't plus, right?
Well, yeah, it only plus to become a creature, but
Yeah,
since Gideon, like the turn it comes into play, is a 5/5,
yeah.
it just gets to crew Heart
What's 4/4?
4/4, but it just gets to crew Heart
Yeah,
for free,
right.
right? Without having to spend loyalty on the front side.
Mm-hmm.
So that like next attack, your Heart can be crewed by your Gideon on defense
Yeah,
and block. So your Gideon's just like super well protected.
yep. The mana is also a little bit better than the old deck because we have Pathways and a Triome now that we didn't have before.
And you have all the shocks.
Yeah, you have all the shocks too.
Yeah, the mana's way better.
Yeah, way better. Also, I don't remember the old version's Defiance. Like, I think they ran it in the sideboard, but not the main deck. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was the sideboard thing for control.
Yeah.
That's because you had 4-mana Gideon in that slot,
Yeah.
right? You didn't need that. You didn't need Chandra. I mean, it was playing, veteran motorists
Yeah.
at different points in its history.
Yeah.
So, like, you just have more cards because, like, Bone Crusher Giant is better than, like, anything
Right.
that deck kind of played.
Yeah. I mean, it also gets to play Thoughtseize now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, like, it's kind of Jundish,
It's very Jundish.
where you're just, like, some card advantage and just piles of removal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
I can't
Fatal
imagine...
Push and Unlicensed Disintegration.
Yeah, I can't
And
imagine
Bone Crusher.
that, what's it called? Goblins fares very well against you.
It does not. I almost said something when you were talking about getting rolled by Muxus like 30 games in a row, because I played Muxus 3 times and they haven't even gotten a game off me.
Yeah, they just can't.
Yeah.
Hey, it was if you were playing Treasure Hunt, you're gonna get rolled by Muxus. I didn't say anything about playing Interaction and Removal.
Right.
But yeah, the deck, like I said, it's on the Twitter. It is the kind of deck that you look at and you're like, this is like good, clean Magic.
It is. Very much so.
And if like Historic can support this, how do you do against have you played against like Sacrifice? Is that...
Yeah, it's a little bit trickier. You can get put pretty far behind, like if they resolve a company. But the deck is so good at applying pressure, a lot of times they don't have the chance to. Like, even if they resolve a company, a lot of times you can just attack through it and win.
Okay. I mean, they don't have something that deals with a 4/4 flyer.
Right.
For 2 mana.
Right. Yeah, no, they need to assemble an engine to deal with it, and you just don't give them the opportunity to.
Yeah, your whole deck is about them not allowing them to assemble an engine.
Yeah.
So, it looks good, and like it is a very mid-range-ish kind of deck.
Yeah.
Also, fun thing that you guys might not think of. So it has Croxa in the sideboard.
It
You
does.
can use Croxa to crew your vehicles before in response to the trigger that has it die.
Uh-huh.
So you can like go heart and then turn 3 be like Croxa, tap it to crew my vehicle, have it die. Now my fatal push is on, kill your 3-drop.
I did that. When you sent me a message and said you were setting up for this show, I sent you a message back and said that I was in the middle of a match and I'd let you know when I was done. I did that during that match.
Did they just instant concede? Because like that just seems like just such a beating.
It was super brutal. I also had a Bomat Courier on the board with 2 cards under it. It was great.
Yes. Yeah. I had a game yesterday where my opponent resolved Angel of Invention.
Oh, yeah?
And my hand was Fatal Push and Vengeful, whatever, the 3/2 that gives something -3/-3.
Oh.
And I was like, all right, Fatal Push my own token. Yes, Arena, I'm sure. Play my guy, give your Angel -3/-3, scoop. They just scoop. Nice. They're like, yep, I am now dead on board. I was fine, now I am not.
Awesome.
I was like, yeah. Like, good job, Fatal Push. Way to 2-for-1 me, but we got there.
Hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Hey, they were tapped out. That was the winning line. Also, I might be breaking the Kaladesh format.
Yeah.
In draft.
Okay.
I've done 8 drafts. I have a 64% win rate.
Wow.
My last 2 drafts, I went 7-2 and 7-1.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, they were both pre-con decks, but, it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
So what'd you find that's breaking the format?
You're right. The format is ridiculously aggressive to the point that, like, I almost refuse to draft 5-drops.
Yeah, we should back up a second because that was a conversation between me and you and not in Discord. The first day, I think it was the first night of Kaladesh drafts, I had sent you a message and said I did 3 drafts. I went like 7-1, 7-2, 6-3 or something like that. And that's what I had told you is I don't remember the format being as aggressive as it currently is. All of the drafts that I did were like red-black aggro, red-white aggro. And when I tried to draft something a little bit more dirtily, I just got hammered.
Yeah, it super punishes you if you stumble at all. It's kind of absurd. I killed multiple in my last red-black draft. I killed multiple people on turn 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So I have drafted red-black aggro 3 times. And I am 14-7 with it.
Wow.
I've drafted red-white aggro twice. I had a 1-3 and a 7-2. And the 1-3, I just like got color screwed.
Yeah.
Like 2 games in a row, and I was like, all right, cool, these things happen. But then I did like a blue-red energy deck and a green-black counters deck, and the green-black deck was like super aggressive as well.
Yeah.
Right, like you just go so wide and you forget how like aggressive vehicles are.
Right.
Like basically giving every one of your creatures haste.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the format is really aggressive. Like I hesitate to draft 5-drops. My current deck is red-black aggressive, but it's improvise. So I have the 2-drop artifacts that make 2 artifacts that make a 1/1 and like leave an artifact around.
Servo schematic,
and then the white one, the Cogworker's Puzzle Knot.
Oh yeah.
And then 4 improvised creatures.
Mm-hmm.
To like try to power those out.
Yeah.
And then I have like the improvised guys that make a servo whenever an artifact, non-creature artifact dies or non-token creature artifact dies.
Oh yeah.
That I can then combo with the black guy that lets you sack artifacts to get counters, and then the red 1/3 that deals damage whenever an artifact comes into play.
Yeah, that guy's really good.
I had 4 in a draft. This one I only had 1. I had 5 in my pool, and I took 1 out.
Yeah.
Yeah, cards good. But so far, like, I've only drafted one non-red deck. I drafted green-black the first time, and I've kind of just slanted towards red because it has good removal, and
applies like, good pressure.
Yeah, it's all you want to do is just, like, turn things sideways in this format.
Yep.
It's a little one note, which gets, like, a little sad. So I have the deck that I listed. It was red-black aggro, and I just wrote, deck is a pile. I thought it was god-awful. I went 5-3.
Wow.
I was just like, oh, I'm just attacking every turn. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. So it's interesting that it is aggressive. It's more aggressive than I remember it.
Yeah, way more aggressive.
And with all of that stuff, I think we got a show.
I think we have a show. So, where can our listeners find us if they want to shoot us some questions or show ideas or talk about the decks they're building?
You can get us on Twitter at CasualTryPod.
Yep. You can find us on Facebook at CasualTryHardMTG. You can drop us an email, show@CasualTryHardMTG.com. Don't forget, if you're looking to pick up any singles, please use our TCG Player affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. Anything you purchase after following that link will get a small cutoff to help keep the show rolling. If you want to support us a little bit more directly, you can do so at patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. We also have a Discord channel set up. Lots of cool people hanging out in there. A lot of good discussions. If you're interested in joining the conversation, follow the link in the description or on Twitter or on Facebook, or you can send us a message and we'll send you a link to get in. I'm James. My handle is Greasy Jockey on Discord. You're Brian, and your handle is Dr. Gamer PhD.
I am.
Yeah. You got anything else for this week?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, with that, we will catch you guys on the interwebs.
Catch you on the internet.